Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fantasy Pros. I am Ryan Wormeli, joined by Terrell, Furman. We are into August, a month away from the NFL season, so everybody is thinking about the same thing, and that is their upcoming fantasy draft or drafts, if you are anything like us. Terrell, you obviously do betting as your main focus for most of the season. In August, you do kind of step into the fantasy shoes. What has it been like kind of getting ready to view the NFL through that prism?
Oh, well, I'm glad that there are a lot of people that jump into NFL fantasy football in August like I do. A lot of folks in the greater fantasy community been able to put a lot of legwork in for me to be able to swoop in August when all is there and be like, hey, this is who I like, and here are my rankings. Here you go. So yeah, no, I love August time frame, especially the redraft time.
And by the way, Fantasy Pros makes it easy for anybody who's kind of swooping in and hasn't been paying attention throughout the offseason. We pay attention in the offseason for you. So that's why we have all of our updated expert consensus rankings. We've got a brand new app I would highly recommend everybody go check out. It's one consolidated app now. It's really cool and a big deal for us. And we got all the tools and rankings that you need to dominate your draft season. I want to let everybody know that we're doing super chats this year. We started doing them during last season. We weren't doing them during draft season, though, so that's kind of new for us. Send in your super chats for a guaranteed response to your questions. We're, of course, going to try and get to as many questions as we possibly can. You know, early August remains to be seen how busy it is, but we guarantee we will get your super chats answered if you get them in the first 20 minutes of the show. Like I said, we're going to do our very best to get to all of these. This stream is going to be about 45 minutes to get everybody heads up, not the full hour, but about 45 minutes for this one. So get those super chats in. We will get your questions answered. And yeah, we'll go ahead and jump right in. I want to shout out Kyle Flint in the comments who said he had the number one team in his league last year. Thanks to some help from Fantasy Pros. That is what we love to hear. Nothing we enjoy more than being able
Number
to
one
hear
after the
those
season,
excited.
not regular season. I had a number
Yeah.
one regular season because of Fantasy Pros, and then playoffs happened, and
Playoffs happen. I've had the last two seasons, I've gone into the semifinals with like 7 or 8 teams alive. Like I've been really good about getting into that final four. And then each of the last 2 years, only one of those teams has made it to the finals. The semifinals have been absolutely hammering me in
Yep.
recent years. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen this year.
Oh man, tell me about it. Last year. I had a dud week. This is the worst. When you have a dud week in the semifinals and then you get to the next week and you destroy the third place game and you're just like, oh, come
Yeah.
on, man. Like, come on.
So terrible. It feels like it happens every year somehow without fail. Before we dive into the questions, and yeah, we're going to bang through like as many of these as we possibly can, which my goal is to get through all of them. When you first started thinking about fantasy stuff for this year, Terrell, again, kind of doing that transition from only thinking about betting to more fantasy, were there any players that immediately stuck out to you as like, oh, I don't agree with the consensus on this guy. I think they're too high or too low, or have you quite gotten to that point yet?
Saquon Barkley. I mean, that's just the number RB1 for a guy that everybody wants to say something about the touches trend and like, oh, it doesn't mean anything. I think it really like most people that are pro Saquon Barkley just so happen to be Eagles fans, believe it or not. And a lot of people that are anti Saquon Barkley are everybody else. But I just can't get behind that amount of workload and how much we've seen Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Christian McCaffrey. Like you can go Adrian Peterson. You can go back as far as time. Like when you get this amount of workload, it doesn't look good for that running back in the second half of the season. And then, you know me, I know Saquon inside and out. And I definitely know when an injury is on the horizon. He's played the Giants with it before. So, yeah, I think this one's going to be a rough one for Saquon. I'm not taking him number one as the number one RB. Absolutely not.
Yeah, he's not my number one pick, nor is he my number one running back. Like to me, Chase and Bijan should be the first 2 picks in every draft. You can debate the order, maybe depending on your scoring format or personal preference, but to me, the draft starts at 3. That's just, different people might have different rankings, and that's fine, but that does align with consensus. Jamar Chase is number 1 in ECR and half PPR scoring, and Bijan Robinson is number 2. All right, let's dive into some of these questions here, Terrell. First question is from Kyle, who I referenced already. His league has an auction draft, 1 quarterback, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Any general advice for this kind of salary cap auction format? Do the same general drafting strategies apply? since everything seems based on snake drafts. It's a good point. We do tailor a lot of our advice to snake drafts because that is just by far the most common. I actually prefer salary cap drafts. I think it's more fun to I don't have to have the first pick to have a chance at Jamar Chase. I can choose to build my team around that if that's how I want to do it. Terrell, when you're doing one of these salary cap drafts, do you approach it differently in terms of your kind of macro level strategy than you would a regular draft?
Yeah, I think so. I don't actually place too many salary auction drafts, to believe it or not. I'm trying to get into them. I just talked about Joe and trying to get into one this year. So hopefully I get into one this year. But general advice pretty much goes for all of fantasy, and like, make yourself a list, make yourself a tier system, and stick to where you value the players. Like, don't feel bad for paying up for somebody that you value, because what are you going to do? You're going to let the people, oh, I like this person, but I didn't pay up to go get this person. Now they're gone. And now you're going and settling for people that you just don't think. Like, this is your opportunity where you can create the league. Everybody is at the same standing. It's no picks, no order. Everybody's at the same standing. Everybody has the chance to get the same players. Go for the guys you want. And if you end up spending up in this area, then know that, hey, I got to really dive into the sleepers and really dive into those value picks in the later ends of the draft and be able to fill out my roster like that.
I think one of the fun things with any kind of salary cap draft is that you're going to have a lot of regret, but so will everybody. Like you're never going to finish a draft like that and go, I got the best value on every single guy, because it's so contextual. Like when players are nominated makes a big difference in the price they go for. I like to make sure I'm not going after somebody who is the last guy alive in that tier. So let's say there are 4 quarterbacks left that I really like. I don't want to wait till only the 4th one is available, because then everybody is going to know that's the last guy in the tier, and that price is going to kind of shoot up. But every salary cap I've ever done, I have walked away thinking some of these players were amazing values. I can't believe how lucky I got, and others were I overpaid, and that's part of the fun. The last thing I'll say on that, just come from kind of the macro level strategy, is if you're in a league with some real shrewd kind of diehard players, I tend to go into those drafts with more of a depth approach. Like, I want to just get a lot of good players. If I'm in a league with more casual players who I know maybe aren't paying as close attention as I'm going to on the waiver wire, I go stars and scrubs, because I know I'm going to also get to fill out that depth on the waiver wire. The draft's only half the battle. So those are some of my thoughts there. Question here from Frank Elliott. First pick in Dynasty. Would you take Hampton over Jeanty? It's a 3-year contract. I don't know, obviously, some of the other details here, if there are, other kind of scoring stuff that matters. But in a vacuum, in a Dynasty, 3-year contract format, Terrell, would you consider Hampton over Jeanty? I know Jeanty didn't have the greatest start in the preseason game. Of course, that's one meaningless game. This would definitely be going against the grain, though, considering how hyped Jeanty is. What do you think about this possibility?
Yeah, I think I understand why you do it, and you're just looking at the system. And you're saying, okay, Omarion Hampton, he's going to be with Harbaugh all these years. Greg Roman, this run first offense. If he takes over, he's going to be big. But you still got Najee Harris there. Like, it's still Najee Harris there, and at some level, Najee Harris is going to be there for a while. I mean, I'm sure Hampton is probably closing the gap, but I'm still on Jeanty, man. Like, I trust Pete Carroll, and that Pete Carroll is going to run the football with this guy. And yeah, the offensive line may not be there this year, but where's to say that they don't upgrade the offensive line next year? And it's way better, and he looks so much better next year than what he does probably this year. Like, I don't know. I just like the 3 years of Jeanty still, but I understand if you want to take Hampton.
I think I'm going to end up being the low guy on Hampton, and it's not at all a reflection of the player, because I think he's really good. I have him in a college, a campus to Canton league, so I've had him since he was at UNC, and I've been a big fan of his. But I don't think Greg Roman is the ideal fit that people think. They want to run the ball, but Greg Roman wants to have multiple players running the ball. He did it in Baltimore. I think Mark Ingram in 2019 is the most carries an individual running back has ever had under Greg Roman. And it wasn't that many. I forget the exact number, but it wasn't a number to say, oh, that was like the workhorse guy. He hasn't done that a lot. Now, he's had running quarterbacks at previous stops where he doesn't really have that with Herbert in the same way. So maybe he will be with, I mean, Herbert can run. They don't run him as much as I'd like to see him, but maybe they'll treat it differently with Najee Harris dealing with this fireworks stuff and all that. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I'm just like I like the player a lot, but I'm just like a little dialing it back. I would take Jeanty and not overthink it if it were me.
And the
Oh, yeah, go
Slater
ahead.
news chat's talking about Slater
Yep,
news.
yep.
Slater news is big too.
That hurts, right? I mean, that's top 5-ish left tackle in the game. Something certainly in that conversation. So I'm glad he just got paid. By the way,
Get your
it feels
money, hey man. Get your
feels a little
money.
better when those guys. At least same thing happened with Ronnie Stanley several years ago. He got a huge contract extension, and like 5 days later had like a really career changing injury. So
It's funny. My friend is also a Ravens fan, and he as soon as the Slater news came in, he sent in the chat. He was like, Ronnie Stanley 2.0.
yeah, I mean, really, it is, and you hope he bounces back from it a bit better. Just a reminder for everybody that we are doing super chats on this stream. We're kind of giving a 20-minute guarantee. If you get your super chat in the first 20 minutes, we are guaranteeing we will get that answered. After that, if there's a lot of them, it might be tricky through 45 minutes. We are going to do every effort to get those answered, and I have confidence that we will. But just for official purposes, bookkeeping, want to make sure first 20 minutes will 100%, no doubt about it, guarantee we get that answered. Let's actually jump ahead to a super chat here that we got from John Fleming. 20-team dynasty, traded away Lamar Jackson and his first-round pick, which was number 18. Again, 20 teams, so that's pretty late for a first-rounder.
Oh, hey, good job on
Dak
almost making the title game last year.
Drake London. Yeah, and that's impressive in a league with that much, yeah. So he trades away Lamar and the 18th overall pick for Dak and Drake London. His other receivers are T. Higgins and Juwan Jennings. Running backs are Bijan and Achane. Tight end is Evan Ingram. I'm going to assume this is not Superflex because that would be insane in a 20-team league. So assuming that is the case, I actually like this move. I think Dak is a great win now quarterback. It would not surprise me if they were sort of a poor man's Bengals this season. What we saw with Burrow, Higgins, and Chase a year ago, I think we could see
very poor.
It won't be
very,
as good,
very poor.
But very poor. But
very,
a high
very,
volume.
very poor.
Dak has been a high fantasy producer before, even without running. He's been a top 8 quarterback twice as a primarily pocket passer. And I do think that I'm not the biggest George Pickens guy, but I do think the fit works really well next to CeeDee Lamb. So I don't think the Cowboys are going to be good this year, but I think the passing attack might actually get a lot going. And in a 1 QB league, yes, you would rather have Lamar than Dak, obviously. But Drake London could be a top 5 receiver this year, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. So I kind of really, considering your first round pick is that late, I'm on board with this. I'm not going to say it's like a smash 100%, no doubt about it, win. This is an A+ grand slam. But I am on board with this trade given the format. Again, assuming it's not Superflex, which I am imagining that is the case. What do you think about this one, Terrell?
I like it because, I mean, I'm not in any 20-team dynasty leagues, but what value are you getting at pick 18? For a dynasty league that you're not getting in Drake London? Because Dak Prescott some weeks can probably give you close to Lamar production. Lamar's going to have those big boom weeks where we're in the 25 to 30 point range, but Dak can give you some really, really big weeks. So the fact that you're now getting Drake London, who is a wide receiver 1 and a bona fide wide receiver 1, and some people are even talking about Drake London could be like a top 3 fantasy wide receiver this year. I've seen somebody that said bold prediction, Drake London is your wide receiver 1. Like, I think you're really, really good upgrading because while T is very good, while Juwan Jennings probably did a lot for you that got you all the way to 6 to 18 last year, you got an official bona fide number 1 now. So yeah, I really like this trade. Drake London to pair up with Bijan, and then don't let Achane get going again in Miami. This team's going to be nasty.
Yeah, I like it. By the way, it's funny. I noticed we had a comment before we even got to the Hampton Jeanty question saying, can we please stop hyping Jeanty on this channel? He's a baller, but the O-line is terrible. So
it is.
It's a worthy critique, honestly. It's more just kind of buying into the talent, obviously, there. Let's go to a question here from Daryl. How to draft quality players from a late draft position? I really like picking late this year, Terrell. I kind of view this year's crop of players as there's a pretty clear about top 15 or so, in my opinion, that I'm going to be really happy if I can get any 2 of those guys. So if you're picking early, like, yeah, you get Chase or Bijan or whoever, I like that. That's super fun. But picking late, I can get 2 of like Drake London and I don't know, Puka, or London and Thomas, or London and Derrick Henry. Like, I really like pairing those 2. So when you are, having that late draft position in the first round, which is, I assume, what this question is referring to, I would just say, like, take any 2 great players. I don't care if it's running back. I don't care if it's receiver. I don't care if it's one of each. I don't care if you take Brock Bowers in there. there's just get 2 elite players and thank your lucky stars that you get the chance to do so. I think picking late is great, and you can't go wrong going BPA, honestly.
Yeah, I love the double wide receiver build towards the end, back end on the turn there. It just, especially in 3 wide receiver leagues, it just makes me feel very confident. Wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 are set, and there's a good chance that both of them could be wide receiver 1s. So I just feel like I'm already ahead. And then I am one where I go and I'm searching for value and I'm grabbing a bunch of different running backs and just waiting to see, all right, which one is going to be the one that's big or pops for me. And that's going to be the one that carries me throughout the year. I had Jordan Mason last year and he carried me a good majority of the season before getting hurt. And so like stuff like that, players like that, I'm looking for those guys towards the back end. I'm talking about Saquon Barkley and how I think Saquon Barkley, unfortunately, it may not be the best season for him. And if he goes down with injury, a late round pick on a Will Shipley turns a back end late round pick that I made because I had double wide receiver to start late in the draft. And then it turns out Will Shipley is giving me 15 points per game as a starter or whatever it may be. So yeah, I like the back end of the draft. I like taking those double wide receivers there, coming back, maybe going in running back in the later rounds and trying to find some value.
I think I do. I know I said you can go in any direction, and I do mean that. I think wide receiver is my favorite start as well. And part of that is also because in the 3rd and 4th round, I really like the running back value this year. That's typically a dead zone for running backs. I don't see it that way this year. You can get Kenneth Walker in the 3rd round, maybe even the 4th in some leagues. He's currently ranked as a 4th round pick in our expert consensus rankings. I love that. If you're pairing that with like Drake London and Nico Collins or whoever it is that you got with the first 2 picks. So yeah, I'm all about that. Quick mention just to everybody, since we are on YouTube right now, that you can join Judge Joey P every Tuesday at 3 Eastern right here on YouTube for Fantasy Draft Court. We've got 5 players. The defense argues that you should draft them. The prosecution says you should dodge them. Be a part of the jury, hear both sides, and vote on the verdict. Also, we will be tackling your fantasy questions right here every Friday at 4 Eastern. If you like what we do, please drop us a like and subscribe. It really does help us out. All right, next question here from Aaron. 4th spot, who am I leaning toward? So obviously, if Chase or Bijan falls, 100% one of those 2. Assuming those guys are gone, you're looking in those tier 1 players. You're really picking between an option of Jahmyr Gibbs, Justin Jefferson, Saquon, and CeeDee Lamb. Those are the guys that are currently in tier 1, along with Chase and Bijan in our expert consensus rankings. Of those, Gibbs would probably be my top choice. Maybe even CeeDee. I just talked about how I think that passing game is going to feast, partly because the defense I think is going to be bad in Dallas. I just think they're going to throw a ton, and people are maybe forgetting just like how productive CeeDee is when he's healthy. Jefferson, he does have the rookie quarter, but not a rookie quarterback, but essentially a rookie quarterback.
No, say it, rookie quarterback.
Effectively a rookie quarterback.
We play locker room rules around here. Until you play all 16, 17 games, whatever we calling it now, you a rookie, and he ain't played them games. You a rookie. However, I'm going with Jefferson and rookie quarterback, if you ask me.
Okay.
I think he's going to be gone. I really think he's going to be 3, but a lot of people are going Saquon now, and there are some gives. But, I just think that Jefferson, especially with the fact that he's starting the season without Jordan Addison on a 3-game suspension now, it just kind of pigeonholes more of the Jefferson. And Jefferson is just so talented of a receiver. He's going to get open, and it's going to be hey, just throw it up to me, and I'm going to come down and get it. And I really just don't know what defenses are going to do to be able to stop him. And I think JJ is going to be really, really good this year, both JJs. So JJ to JJ connection, I'm a little bit more on Jefferson, and then I will probably go CD.
I think you could. It's very easy to make the case for any of those guys, honestly. Unless you want to fade Saquon because of the injury risk stuff, which I'm on board with. Gibbs, Jefferson, Lamb. I think you just take your favorite of those and run. Again, for me, it's probably Gibbs or Lamb. I wouldn't fight anybody who says Jefferson instead. I think picking inside that top 5, you're going to be getting a really, really great cornerstone. And and while I'd rather pick late because I want to get 2 of those top 15 or so guys, I don't want to pick in the middle. I don't want to pick 7th because then you're missing out on that elite tier and maybe not doubling up. If you can pick early, again.
Oh, if I'm in the middle of the draft, it's Neighbors every time. I've yet to be in the middle of the draft and not grab Neighbors. It's every single time.
Neighbors is going to catch so many passes this year. Drafting number 11 is Jacobs worth reaching for at the top of the 2nd. This comes from Pat. I have not been a Jacobs guy historically. I understand the case for it. there are just other players I like better. You know, drafting 11, so you're going to be 11th and then 14th. If I'm picking 14th, you look at some of the names around here: Brian Thomas Jr., Derrick Henry, Devon Achane, Drake London, Brock Bowers. Even I'm going with one of those guys with my second round pick ahead of Jacobs. Jacobs is not a terrible second round pick in a vacuum, but early second, I just think there's better players on the board. What do you think, Terrell?
And I'm not high on the Packers this year. That's a lot of it for me, and this is where the betting and fantasy comes in. It mixes. I'm not high on the Packers. I think the Packers defense is actually going to underwhelm, and they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. And so I don't want to play around with Josh Jacobs this year because I think the game script isn't going to be there for him as consistently as it was last year. So also questions along the offensive line. Josh Jacobs really. I'm not reaching for him. If he falls to me and it's a good value, then and I'm in the middle of a draft, okay, cool, I'll grab Jacobs, but I'm not reaching for him. In that back end 11th, and I'm assuming 12-team league, I feel like there's better options on the turn than Josh Jacobs.
I agree. And I agree with your point about the offense too. Like I actually like investing in Jordan Love as a discount quarterback this year because I think they're going to throw a lot more with him healthier and with them needing to. I don't expect them to be as run heavy as they were last year. But I'm also somebody who historically has faded Jacobs relative to where he goes. Question here from Joe. Thoughts on Davante Adams? What does he do to Puka's value? I have assuming health for Matt Stafford, which I know he's got the epidural stuff in the back, like, setting that aside for a second, I have no concerns about these two. Like, Matthew Stafford is a kingmaker in fantasy. He is very good at saying, these are the two guys who are studs. I'm going to feed them as much as I need to. Sean McVay is good at doing that as well. Assuming health in this offense, I'm very happily. I probably do like taking Davante better than Puka just because you can get Davante, a round or two later. But I like them both at cost, and assuming health for Stafford, which is a big asterisk, I'm very in on both of them. I'm not worried about them like cannibalizing each other at all, Terrell.
And I felt like we've seen Puka play with a pretty decent sized Cooper Kupp and still have massive fantasy value. Like, that's just how Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay run this offense. So I'm with you. I don't think it does anything to Puka's value. I think the only thing that it does is just elevate Davante Adams to a tier of saying, oh, wow, you're going to be able to compete with some team's number one receiver. That's how much Matthew Stafford's throwing the football.
Let's skip ahead to another super chat that we have here. This one from Nobody. We'll circle back and get some of the previous questions as well after this one. In best ball, is it dumb to grab handcuffs for the running backs I've drafted? For example, grabbing Garendo and Christian McCaffrey. Or what about at receiver, Terrell, i.e. Nico Collins and Jaden Higgins?
So wide receiver is a little bit different because I don't think of that as handcuff. I think that more of like battle buddy. And yeah, this receiver is good, but if the receiver in front of him goes out, he becomes great. But the handcuffs like Garendo, you're not playing him when CMC's active. You're not. And so I'm very pro handcuff. You caught the right person. I'm very, very pro handcuff. And whenever I try to get a situation, James Cook, I was just talking about James Cook earlier, and I want Ray Davis. If I have James Cook, I want to go get Ray Davis because I don't like this situation. It may not impact James Cook's ability to play, but you not being there in training camp, practicing in training camp, we see this over and over and over. People get paid contracts, they get hurt. Next man is up. So Will Shipley, I was talking about him earlier. Big person. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be looking towards him at the end of drafts. Whoever, AJ Dillon, like whoever it is in that backfield, I want to figure it out. Who's gonna be that second person, and I want a piece of that, especially because later on in drafts, I'm really not using a lot of those players. Like some of those guys, yeah, they look good. I feel smart if I draft them, but if I'm stacked at the top, I'm not using y'all. Whereas if my guy goes down, I need a replacement.
For me, especially thinking about it through the prism of best ball, like where you're not able to make pickups later on in the season, I just don't want to play guessing games. So if there's an ambiguous backup situation in a backfield, like the 49ers, for example, I know he got hurt, but like I could have made the case where Jordan James might actually be the backup you want on this team. Like we don't know 100% who the guy would be, as opposed to like take the Falcons, for example. If you take Bijan Robinson and then later on go, well, maybe I'll reach on it for a round to get Tyler Algier because we know he's going to be the bell cow if Bijan gets hurt. I'm much more interested in that scenario. On the receiver side, I'm kind of with you. Like receiver is it's kind of like an inherently a volatile position week to week anyway, that I would take Jaden Higgins regardless of whether or not I had Nico Collins, because I think he's a good player and will get opportunities. And in best ball, you don't have to guess when those opportunities are going to come. You're just going to get to be the beneficiary of them. So for me, I don't even view it as handcuffing on the receiver side.
Yeah, same. They're more like buddies, just, buddies, and one could elevate to a monster scale. But it's a lot of times that, that star wide receiver goes down and nobody fills that void. And that's the difference. Too many times a running back will fill the void if a star running back goes down, but sometimes a star receiver goes down and nobody's filling that void.
Question here from Joey. Is Josh Allen good at football? And
no.
I was going to say, you're lucky that I'm going to try and be objective here, because as a Ravens fan, I have some very strong opinions on how the MVP voting went last.
It was a participation trophy. I say it. You don't have to say it. I'm not a Ravens fan. I'll say it. It was a participation trophy, and they just wanted Josh Allen to get his turn, and so that's why I put all this money on Joe Burrow to win it this year, because they just want everybody to get their turn with the trophy. It's not going to the best player anymore, because if it was going to the best player, Lamar would have won last year. The first team QB, not the second team.
Lamar had like one of the 5 greatest, statistically speaking, quarterback seasons ever. Like what he did was historic and insane. And I think 25 years from now, historians will look back at his Pro Football, reference page and go, how did this guy not win MVP? I think it's great. But no, Josh Allen's a great quarterback and a great fantasy quarterback. I mean, he is as consistent a player in fantasy football at any position as there has been this decade, really. I mean, he is a top 2 quarterback every single year. So obviously people don't need me to tell them that Josh Allen is a very good quarterback. From Matt, I'm 5th in a 10-team Superflex league. Any different strategy for quarterbacks? 10-team league, it's a little easier to navigate the position, but the fact that it's Superflex, like I would still just prioritize it. Like I am very comfortable saying I don't care what kind of values fall to me. My first 2 picks, or at least 2 of my first 3, are quarterback. And then I'll hammer every other position from there. I am deeply uncomfortable, Terrell, with not being set at quarterback in a super flex just because of how many points those guys score. So picking 5th, Allen, Lamar, Jane Daniels are probably not going to be there. So then you start to get into like, well, do I go Jamar Chase or Jalen Hurts, for example?
And that's literally my conversation is, all right, if we're not going with the top 3 guys, then, okay, it's Chase, it's Bijan, and then I have another conversation about quarterbacks. I think at that point, once we get past the top 3 guys and you're talking about Jalen Hurts and some of these other guys, I'm like, oh, okay, like, yeah, they're cool, but like Jalen Hurts can go win a week 30-7 and have 17 fantasy points. And is that fine? Yeah, but is that what some of those other guys are doing? No, but Chase, Jamar Chase is walking into 20 points a week sometimes. So it's just, yeah, I like Chase. I like Bijan. And then after that, that's probably when I'm back into the quarterback mode. And I'm like, all right, let me go ahead and get somebody. But if Chase and Bijan is still on the board and nobody's grabbed them, and it's been all quarterbacks before that, I'll be the one to break the quarterback streak and go ahead and grab one of those 2.
I think it's definitely worth considering that strategy, especially in a 10-team league. I would just say if you do that, I would say 2nd and 3rd rounds, I'm taking a quarterback no matter what. If I'm starting off with Chase or Bijan, I am then turning around and getting a quarterback next. I'm not like punting on the position entirely. But I think it's totally valuable, like in it, because there is a lot of depth at the position. There are like 20 quarterbacks I love this year, honestly. It's a really, really deep setup this year. Need help on PPR RB2s if you draft Bijan in round 1. This is from Greg, by the way. Tried trading for Chase and Swift, and I cannot acquire any other ideas. Who are some guys, Terrell, that you like as good targets to pair up in your backfield with Bijan?
Let's see. I mean, it really just depends on where I can get the best the best value. Like there's a bunch of, other running backs that I like Chuba Hubbard is somebody that a lot of people aren't talking about that I think he's going to go in and have a really, really strong season and he's going to be really good. So like Chuba Hubbard would be interesting. If you want to go further down the list, Debro will tell you a million times RJ Harvey, like you could go try to trade for the unknown and give them something secure. They might be looking for that. If they've already denied you, they said they denied who? They denied Swift
and then Chase. Chase Brown.
Chase Brown. So you probably got to go a little bit further down than that to get somebody to make a deal with whatever you're offering. Tajay Spears. I think that would be okay. He's going to be a solid back, but you're probably out of the sweepstakes for the main guys if they're talking about you can't get DeAndre Swift. I wouldn't even try to go for DeAndre Swift. So I'd start looking at some of those guys that are maybe in split backfields and just take your pick, like take your shot on you calling the right one. That Titans backfield, I think that it is some fantasy value back there. And I like Tajay Spears. Tajay Spears is going to get all of the passing work. He's going to get a good amount of rushing work. And it looks like he's going to have a bigger workload. And he had the same amount of not the same amount. He had more top 12 weeks than Tony Pollard last year. And Tony Pollard was the lead back in quote unquote 13 games. So yeah, I like a guy like Tajay Spears, maybe a little bit further down the depth chart. Look at those guys that are kind of in those split backfields.
I like Travion Henderson a lot too for this because I think he's going to catch a ton of passes. I don't know. I mean, you can make the case for different running backs of this rookie class to be in different orders, but specifically in a PPR format, I think Henderson is a great RB2 paired up with a guy at the top like Robinson. So Henderson was, and Isaiah Pacheco. I think we'll be ranking.
Yeah, a lot of people are really down on him. I like that.
It's because he looked bad last year, but he was coming back from this crazy injury. Like if he never came back and it was just, hey, he was out for the season and he's now back and healthy, I think he'd be going higher. I like Pacheco as a target a lot. Next question here. Okay to take Trey McBride around the 20 to 24 range in an 18 PPR, 1 quarterback, 2 receiver, 2 running back, 1 tight end. Looking to start receiver, running back, tight end. 100% yes. I really like McBride this year, but more importantly, in an 8-team league, I'm way more comfortable making those luxury picks early because there is going to be so much depth at running back and receiver, especially because you're only starting 2 receivers, not 3. So that means there are only 16 receivers who are starting in this format, unless there's a flex involved too that isn't listed here. But to me, when I see that, I'm going, okay, I'm very comfortable. In the third, I would take Trey McBride in the 2nd round, maybe. That's how emphatic I would say to do this. I'm very enthusiastic about the idea of starting with McBride there because I also think he's going to catch a ton of passes, and this is PPR. So the lack of touchdowns historically, A, maybe that changes, and B, even if it doesn't, he's still going to catch the football a ton. So love in this format specific, and I like McBride in a lot of formats, but in this format specifically, this number of teams, absolutely unequivocally, you have my endorsement to take McBride in the 3rd round.
You need a hit in every position in these formats. Like every position has to be good that week, or you could find yourself in a down week because everybody's starting great players. It's an 18 league. Everybody has great players. And so if you're saying, all right, bet, let me go make sure I secure, because what also happened is they start doubling up on these guys. So you don't want to be too late. And there's a difference between tight end 1 and tight end 8. It's actually a really, really big difference in terms of points. And so I think that it would be a great position to go ahead and try to grab one of those top 3 guys for sure. And Trey McBride falls into that category.
We'll get to more questions in a second, but first, join our Fantasy Pros Discord community, chat with other fans, and get access to exclusive AMAs that wind up on our podcast feed. Here's our current schedule: Boggs and Fitz at 5 Eastern every Tuesday through the end of August, and then Worm, myself, and Fitz at 5 Eastern on the first Tuesday of every month. Come get your questions answered and be on the show at fantasypros.com/chat. Funny thing happened the other day. We had a big meeting and everybody's name was kind of written down the order we were going to talk. And Terrell was supposed to toss it to me. He goes, "Who is Ryan?" It goes, "Oh, Worm."
I definitely was very confused because Ryan is just such like there's Ryans everywhere. You look around and you got 3-4 Ryans. And so I'm like, Ryan. Who is Ryan? We got a Ryan. Oh, Worm. Oh.
I was on Drumline in high school, and there were 13 of us on the battery, which is the group that actually marches around.
5 Ryans.
6 of the 13 were named Ryan. It was like 3 of the snare drums, 2 of the bass drums, and a tenor were all right. It was nuts. All right, next question here from Q. 10-team keeper league start: 2 quarterback, 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, and 2 flex. Who do I keep? And the keeper determines draft order. Malik Neighbors, 4th pick. Jameer Gibbs, 7th, Lamar Jackson, 10th. So which of those 3? And what he's saying is that the draft order will be based on who is picked. So I believe what he's saying is if he picks Neighbors, then he will have the 4th pick in the draft. If he picks Gibbs, 7th. If he picks Lamar, 10th. I know you love Neighbors, and I do too, and I love Gibbs also. But I think the fact that this is a 2 QB league means it should be Lamar because even with the picking later. Now, do you disagree with that? Because Neighbors gets you the earlier pick, or would you also go with the quarterback here?
So let's think about this. So you get Neighbors, and you get the 4th pick. So at that point, well, you're still missing out on those top 3. Like, and I'm sure because then that puts Lamar Jackson back in the pool, so he's going early. I don't really know you don't know who else anybody else is keeping.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think because it's a 2 QB league, I hate to put Neighbors back in the pool. I really would, but like
these
Lamar
are 3
Jackson
great
at
players.
10, but then you have to get the 10 pick.
They're right? They're 3 great players, and I think I would just say don't overthink the draft order side of it. Just take the player that you most want to keep. And because it's a 2 QB format, I would most want to keep Lamar. But it's hard to throw back the other 2 because they're all great.
Yeah, no, the 2 QB it was almost Neighbors. It was very much almost Neighbors, and it still potentially could be Neighbors, but I would pick Lamar.
Yeah. Another question here. Let's start to go a little bit faster. We only got about 10 minutes left here, Terrell, a little less. So we'll try and speed through these. From Eric, I can choose one keeper: Jaden Daniels, Brian Thomas Jr., Chase Brown, or Ladd McConkey. Who should I choose? If it's a Superflex format, Jaden Daniels. If not, for me, it's Brian Thomas Jr. pretty easily. What do you think, Terrell?
No. I think I actually want Ladd.
Okay.
I feel like Ladd, you're getting a better deal. Well, maybe not, because Brian Thomas Jr. went kind of late. It depends on your deal. It's definitely between Brian Thomas Jr. and Ladd. Whoever was second and gives you the better option going forward, I would go with that one.
Yes, if there are round values associated with this, that would change my answer. If there are not, then Brian Thomas Jr. for me, unless it's a super flex, in which case it's Jaden Daniels.
Goldilocks, man, is really Goldilocks.
Question here from Mel. What is your take on using median scoring? I love it. So I am in a fantasy baseball league that does this, where every week you can get up to 2 wins or 2 losses. You have one against your opponent and one against the league median. It kind of makes things a little more fair. And if you have the second highest score of the week, but you are facing the team with the highest score, you aren't totally burned by that. Football is inherently a little bit more fluky, so I am less like super on board the way I am with baseball. But in general, I have really liked that addition to my baseball league, and I would be interested in it for football as well.
And I think that it depends if you got a proactive or a progressive league or not, because there's some old heads that I play fantasy football with that would just scoff at that idea. No, you play who you're playing, but you might have, the Gen Zers and the younger ones that are like, yeah, no, this sounds great. This is a way better place to do it. I like median scoring, but it's just a lot of people I play with don't like it.
Question from Brian. What is your draft strategy from the 12 spot for PPR leagues? We kind of talked about this already, but just to reiterate, I think Terrell and I both really like the double wide receiver spot in that range. We just like the receivers in those range. I'm comfortable taking a running back here if you want, but in PPR, I would make sure one of those picks is a receiver. And frankly, I would probably take both because you're going to get good running back options later.
There's no shot that I'm in the back end of the draft and I'm not taking at least one wide receiver. So 100%. At that point, we'll see how the draft falls to me if I get a running back or there, but there's no way I'm looking at that list of receivers and going double running back. That's not happening.
With all the mid-round wide receiver talent and upside, is this a good year for Hero RB? Personally, I think every year is a good year for Hero RB. I just
if you hit
really like the strategy.
If you hit.
but I do think it totally plays this year, Terrell.
Yeah, like as long as that Hero RB isn't Saquon and Saquon doesn't go down with injury, like it should be good. I with Bijan, I can't imagine myself if I get Bijan in 1 or 2 that I'm going and I'm searching down for RB heavy. Like I'm probably really diving into wide receiver after having Bijan because I just trust Bijan week to week.
Funny note there from Mel about him being the older guy in the league, trying to convince the young ones to add the median scoring. Question here from Tom. PPR league, you also get a quarter of a point per rushing attempt. Would you stack running backs or go wide receiver heavy? Honestly, because it's both, you get the PPR and the extra point for the rushing attempt. What I would really prioritize are running backs who are going to also get work in the passing game, and then you kind of get the best of both worlds. Beyond that, I would just go best player available. I wouldn't say like it has to be a running back heavy or has to be receiver heavy because you're kind of getting both involved there. Now, get a guy like Bijan who's going to catch a lot of passes and have a heavy workload. That's great. Run with that. But in general, I wouldn't worry too much about the position.
I don't think that the 0.25 was enough for me to move to change any rankings around or anything like that. It's just a bonus and nice to have.
Yeah. What's the final say right now on Christian McCaffrey between the injuries and past performance and
No.
his current age? What's the final word? I am, after the elite guys are gone, I'm willing to take the swing, because if you hit, he wins your league. But there's just a lot of other elite guys that I really like, so I'm not forcing it. If there is other players that I think are really good, but I get the upside case. You sound against it though, Terrell.
He's a second round pick for me. He's going ahead of Neighbors here. There's no point in time that I would ever take CMC over Neighbors, just because of the concern that if CMC goes down with injury, I'll be more mad at myself for drafting him than I would be if I didn't draft him and he went and he was a league winner. I would be more mad at myself if I drafted him. So me personally, preference, I'm out of CMC this year.
Picking 7th in a 12-team PPR league, already keeping Achane, can keep one more at the following round listed. Drake London in the 3rd, Trey McBride in the 4th, Chuba Hubbard in the 13th. Hubbard is clearly the best value because he's way later, but the best player is Drake London.
And Drake London in the 3rd, Drake London could potentially be, like I said, some people are talking about Drake London as a top 5 wide receiver this year. So the 3rd is actually really good value, and you still have your 1st and 2nd round picks, and you're already starting with Drake London and Achane. Yeah, I would take London.
I think I would take London, even though it's like the pure value. It's probably Hubbard as the answer. I just get the elite player. I would take London.
Because, like, we get to the 13th round. Yeah, I'm not getting, but, like, no. I would grab London.
Rookie draft, Alec Iomanor or Torrey Horton. Horton looking good in preseason. He's somebody I already liked. I'd probably lean Horton. They're both roughly in the same range, though, so it's really personal preference. Do you have a thought on this one, Terrell?
Iomanor for me.
Okay. Question, double hero RB strategy work for a PPR 14-man league drafting 5th? I think it can. I'd be pretty wary of in a 14-team league. I don't know that receiver is as deep as its reputation would suggest. So I would be worried if you are waiting too long to get your first receiver in a league that deep. In general, I think it's Scott Pianowski from Yahoo that says this. Any strategy works if you take the right players. So like, yeah, if you pick the right, running backs, I think it can work, but I would be cognizant of it's not that deep of a position at receiver.
Who, let me see. Let me go look. Who would I even, if I didn't go the first 24 guys, so you're looking at Zay Flowers, Jameson Williams, Travis Hunter, George Pickens. Okay, Ted McMillan. If Ted McMillan is my wide receiver 1, I'm just going out on a limb saying, all right, bet I think he's going to be good. And it's going to be something similar to the Neighbors production. And I'm okay with that. But like Calvin Ridley, okay, maybe a bounce back year. Waddle. Okay, I'm fine with Waddle as a top. I'm cool with these options, but I think that you're putting yourself in a significant disadvantage with how good the top guys are. But I think a Ted McMillan, maybe a Ridley, Waddle for sure. I think they could give wide receiver 1 production.
Okay, we're going to go actual speed round here. Get through as many as possible, like 10 seconds on each question. From Longway, 1st and 2nd and 9th in a 1st-round rookie draft, what should I do? Just take Jeanty and then either Tet or Hampton, depending on if you need a running back or receiver. And then the 9th, literally just best player available. It's probably going to be a running back. There's a lot of good rookie running backs. But if you can get like an Igbuka there, that's where he was going back in May. I like it. There's going to be good options there. I would just go BPA and not overthink it. From James, in the 3rd spot, 8-team league, most mocks takes Bijan, then get London on the way back. 3rd pick has been taking McBride, and then 4th, a running back. I adore that strategy. That's perfect in my opinion. Any disagreement there, Terrell?
No, I'm good. I like it.
Yeah, I think that's great. Next question here. Thoughts on Swift in Johnson's offense? Could he have top 10 upside? We've seen DeAndre Swift in a Ben Johnson offense before back in Detroit. It was a weird tenure for Swift in Detroit. I'm not really in on Swift this year. I don't think he's going too high. I'm just not drafting him where he is. I'm interested in other players. End of the 2nd round, Adams or Hill. I would go Davante Adams. I'm fading Tyreek Hill. That could burn me, but right now I'm fading him. Do you have a preference there, Terrell?
Adams, but it's closer than you have it.
Okay. 1st round bust this year. Maybe Puka just with the health stuff with Stafford.
Saquon. Come on.
Oh yeah. You're really talking about Saquon.
Saquon.
That's the obvious one.
Low hanging fruit. Okay. If it's not Saquon, then Gibbs, because he gets hurt.
One quick note here, because Eric brings this up. Don't understand the argument for Saquon getting injured due to workload. Bijan only had 13 fewer touches during the regular season. The point is that Barkley also had like 100 more touches in the postseason. It's like 480 touches added up between the two.
435 carries through the regular season and postseason, just carries alone. He's at 435.
That's a lot. The postseason matters in that regard. Okay, we already answered that one. Quickly, keeper league on sleeper have the 101 and Neighbors and Barkley already. Drafted Neighbors 5th round and want to keep him. Thoughts, advice? I'm not sure I understand the question.
I have Neighbors and Barkley on my team already, and you have the. No, I don't.
Wants to keep thoughts, advice. Yeah, I'm sorry, Griffin. I'm not totally sure I understand the question. Feel free to shoot us a message on Twitter or Discord or something for more detail. What round is good to get a tight end? I would say either the 2nd or 3rd round if you're going to take an early guy, or just wait. Don't take a guy in the middle.
I go late. I'm a late grabber for tight end. Yep.
Need some advice. 1 running back, 2 receiver, 2 flex, no tight end. Just best strategy in general. Honestly, the best strategy is take the best players. And I don't say that to be dismissive at all. It's a good question, but I try not to overthink it. I try to let the board fall to me and say, if my team's overloaded on one position and not the other, I'm comfortable with that. I just want to have the best team coming out of the draft and the best collection of talent, and I'll figure it out the rest throughout the season.
1 RB is interesting. I don't know if I'm thinking hero RB or if I'm just like, all right, let everybody fight over him and let me just start stacking up wide receivers, because those flexes are more than likely going to be wide receivers for me.
Yeah. Would you go wide receiver, running back in the 1st round with 2 flex spots, 14-team pull PPR league? Probably a receiver, but if the best player available is a running back, I'd have no problem with that. Question from Alec. I have the number 2 pick in a 12-team keeper league, keeping May in the 13th and King Henry in the 2nd. Since I'm keeping May, do I still attack a quarterback with pick 2? Yes. I absolutely. I would. I love May this year, by the way, but yeah, I would still take a quarterback.
Offensive line is shaky.
It is, but I love the talent. I can't help it. Worm, thoughts on Mitchell's performance last night? Dude, he's got the juice back, man. I was excited watching that. It was fun to watch him in 2023 when he first kind of burst onto the scene. Would he be the Henry handcuff, or is it still Hill? Hill will be the pass catcher. He would be the kind of running downs handcuff. He's not going to get the touchdown work that Henry is. Really, the best situation for Mitchell is a best ball league, because he's going to break some long ones this year. I would still lean Hill if you're in any kind of PPR format, though. Very last question here. Bucky Irving or AJ Brown? It's a 3 wide receiver league. PPR has Bijan in the 1st. Would you rather have Bucky or AJ? I really like AJ Brown. I think he's kind of underrated this year. But I know people really like Bucky. Who do you prefer, Terrell?
You already got Bijan. Yeah, I'm going AJ Brown.
Yep, I agree with that one, especially in a 3 receiver format. I know we sped through that, so hopefully folks whose questions we got to later weren't too upset that we didn't spend more time on them. If you want more detail on any of your questions, please go check us out on Discord. I already talked about it earlier, or hit us up on Twitter or anywhere else. We are around all August and really excited to talk fantasy football as much as we possibly can. We're done here for today. We are going to be live on Twitch too. That's twitch.tv/fantasypros is where you can find us. The team here at Fantasy Pros is taking questions all week, every week on Twitch. Erickson and Tom Strachan talk best ball Mondays at 4 Eastern, but you can catch them at 7 Eastern next week only. Seth Wilcock and Debro answer your questions on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 2 Eastern. We also have other Q&As on Thursdays and Fridays at 5 Eastern. Go to Twitch right now to continue the conversation. That will be with me and Bogman starting in just 10 minutes over on Twitch, so we will continue to be answering questions there. Follow us over there so you don't miss any streams. Terrell, super fun. I haven't talked fantasy with you in quite a bit. So I think the last time we did a show together was March Madness, which is crazy to think that was 5 months ago at this point. So good talking to you, buddy. Best of luck to all your drafts that you have going on. I'll be talking to you later this August for sure.
You know.
Yeah. And shouts to Sal, producer, for helping us out on the live stream today. And shouts to everybody listening and paying attention. We'll see you guys.